Tilea's Troubles, Part 47. Capitano di Ventura. Autumn 2402. Estalia, east of Solsona, at the western mouth of the Tramoto Pass. Ottaviano found himself pleased, even thankful, to be wearing the Compagnia's livery once more. He could see Baccia was experiencing a similar satisfaction. The two of them now had a purpose beyond mere survival, a chance to prosper in the security afforded by an army of comrades. The wine was good too. Their journey from Tilea had not been easy, nor pleasant, and their first weeks in Estalia were a time of hunger and doubt. When they finally reached the Estalian Compagnia del Sole, they cursed their ill luck, for had they taken the Tramoto Pass instead of the sea route to Almagora, they would have walked straight into their comrades' arms as soon as they entered Estalia. But as they were happy to have arrived, and to be made so welcome, they put their troubles behind them. Having delivered the letter they carried, and briefly sworn themselves into Capitano Bruno Mazzolini's service, the pair of them were permitted to sleep long enough to take the edge off the pain in their aching legs. Upon waking, they were summoned to an examination by the Capitano and his marshal Luigi Esposito. It was an unusually warm afternoon for autumn, so the meeting took place at an open-air table at the edge of the camp, with the foothills of the Abasco Mountains looming in the distance. The Capitano di Ventura had spent the morning hawking, and was still fussing over his bird when they presented themselves. With a simple gesture and the word "please," he invited Ottaviano and Baccia to partake of the wine and fruit on the table. Serving themselves, they drank deeply of the sweet, spiced Borgias. Ottaviano noticed Baccia staring at the banner mounted behind the Capitano, the Leon de Oro of Almagora. Technically, Mazzolini's Compagnia was still in Almagora's employ, having dealt with the last of the rebellious seigneurs in Solsona, and now entering the last 3 weeks of the additional ad beneplicatum term of their service. Ottaviano decided it was very unlikely that the Compagnia would, or even could, be ordered upon some further enterprise, which was probably why, having pursued the remnant rebels along the Tobaro road towards the Tramoto Pass, they had halted. From here, they could make a relatively quick return to Tilea as soon as it was honourable, and had indeed already sent chancellors to secure transport from Tobaro eastwards across the Tilean Sea. "We read your letter," said the Capitano, still admiring the hawk. "Did you know of its contents?" "We knew only what we were told it contained," answered Ottaviano. The letter had been sealed with a particularly stubborn wax of dwarven making, and although Baccia had picked at it upon several occasions, Ottaviano had managed to stop him before he broke it. "And you were told what?" asked the Capitano, finally turning to look at the two of them, balling his fists to lean on the table. "A dwarf called Bolshin gave it to us in Remus, after he had spoken with us at some length. It was plain he wanted to ensure we were what we said we were, and that we were going where we said we were going. He claimed to serve Tilean dwarven interests, and that the letter was an offer of contract, well paid and well worth consideration." "He didn't lie," said the Capitano. "It seems when you stir up some dwarfen bankers and miners, then add a wealthy Bretonian baron, you get a very tempting dish indeed." He turned to address Baccia directly. "Tell me more about this Bolshin." The hawk suddenly squawked, almost as if the name meant something to him. The Capitano turned to shush the bird. It settled quickly, and so he turned his eyes on Baccia. A dwarf's a dwarf," said Baccia hesitantly. "Long beard, very long, brownish. He didn't look old, not for a dwarf anyway. Had gold on his fingers and a sullen-looking guard with him. He was talkative, with a Tilean accent. Not a mountain dwarf, but a city dweller, I reckon." "If you weren't liveried, then how did he know you were Compagnia men?" asked the Capitano. "I can't say for sure," Baccia answered, "except... Well, we did tell him, but that was only after he'd spoken with us for some time. Maybe he talked to everyone at the docks until he found what he wanted with us." The Capitano frowned. "He told everyone he was trying to get a letter to us." Ottaviano shook his head and jumped in before Baccio could answer. "No, Capitano, I don't think so. We weren't keeping it secret that we were Compagnia men. Not in Rimas. He most likely just asked around and got pointed our way." "We heard a story," said Marshal Luigi, "that the Compagnia were blamed for the death of a high-ranking Riemann priest. How come the Riemanns didn't set upon you?" "I don't think the Riemanns believe that story," said Ottaviano. "It was put about by Pavonans, giving them a reason to hunt down and kill as many of us as they could. Most Riemanns think the Pavonan Duke makes up whatever he needs to justify his actions, and that the truth has little to do with it." "The Pavonans are not to be trusted," Baccio chipped in. "Everyone knows they're liars." A muttered agreement came from the little knot of men standing to the side, a guard, a drummer, and a sergeant. The Capitano glanced at them, and they fell silent. "It seems we must tread carefully, then," the Capitano declared, "especially considering Duke Guidobaldo might well be our next employer." He let that notion sink in for a moment, before explaining, "Apparently, he has invited other city-states to join with him to hire us, thus spreading the cost." Ottaviano had neither known nor expected this. He and Baccio had not exactly been moving in the same high circles as the Estalian Compagnia's chancellors. But it made some sense. "I did hear that Renzelli's Compagnia men are already in Duke Guidobaldo's service," he said. "They weren't at the Battle of the Princes, being garrisoned in Trantio. Despite the Pavonans' hatred of the Compagnia, wily old Renzelli must have convinced them that he could be trusted, and that 2 companies of mercenary crossbows would be of good use." "We'd heard that too," said the Marshal, his armour clattering as he shifted his stance, "which is why we took the stories about the Pavonan hatred with a pinch of salt." "With respect, Marshal," said Ottaviano, "Renzelli's hiring was most likely a matter of simple pragmatism on both parties' parts. Duke Guidobaldo needed a garrison for his newly conquered city, and Renzelli needed to live." Baccio sniffed loudly. Staring at his cup, he said, "There's no doubt about what the Pavonans did. After the Battle of the Princes, they hunted down our boys with deadly purpose in mind. Ottaviano and I were lucky, but many weren't. I saw Ruggiero's head mounted on a stake like a common criminal. He did not deserve that. He was a soldier's soldier. A lot of men were killed, who did not need nor deserve to die. And as for our boys murdering a Riemann priest, that's a lie. I said it then and I'll say it now. It makes no sense. If they wanted to rob him, then they'd knock him down and tie him up. No one kills a Morite priest before his time. It's a double insult against Moore." "If it was a lie," declared the Marshal, "then they chose the wrong people to lie about." "Let's not make threats until we know what is best for us," ordered the Capitano. "Remember that General Fortebraccio did not command us, nor did we owe him any allegiance. Even before we parted, he was not our commander. The simple truth is that he went his way and we went ours, and the Compagnia was divided. All we shared was a common past, and the name we went by. I mean no offence to you 2 gentlemen, for I know you played no part in the bitterness that divided the company. But Fortebraccio's men were not our brothers in arms, and it is not to be presumed that we should want vengeance for what was done to them." A silence fell over the company. No one was going to argue. They were all mercenaries, not retinue men. They did not fight for vengeance or honour, but for pay and plunder. "I have considered the options," said the Capitano, "and each is tempting in its own way, but I have a mind to pursue the dwarves' offer, and for several many reasons." Ottaviano raced to guess those reasons. The chance to fight against ogres and not the undead. A way to avoid employment by a lord who cannot be trusted. Service in a force in which the company would only be one part, and therefore might not be required to bear the brunt of the fighting. Or simply the offer of more gold. It was not his place to ask, as a newly admitted member of the company, and so he said nothing. He saw from Baccio's raised eyebrows, however, that he was doubtless pondering the same matter. Still, he and his companion had very recently been in Tilea, and knew the ground well, so to speak. As such, they would be perhaps the best choice of agent when it came to dealing with the locals and the like. He noticed Captain Mazzolini was looking at him. "Of course," said Ottaviano. "If there is anything you wish us to do, Captain, we are now entirely at your service."